Okay, so welcome to my lecture number 2. This video is made because I understand those students who cannot enter my Zoom class or Zoom meeting or Google Meet meetings because I've noticed there are only 15 to 20 students who entered my previous classes. So this video recording or lecture will give you an opportunity to join classes in your own convenient time. So what will happen is I will just cut the video, probably part 1 and part 2, so that if the lecture is long, it will not consume much data or size, or it will only take about 50 MB to upload and to view. That's for the convenience of all. No? So in the lecture 1 or our first meeting, we talk about the introduction to communication as a part of the topic communication in our previous learnings in our communication skills and purposive communication. So I will share screen to, to share my lecture 2. So we will be talking about barriers to communication because we have discussed the elements of communication cycle already. And inside the communication cycle, there is what you call barriers to communication. And this is somehow very important so that you will be able to understand what are those barriers to consider when you are talking to someone or somebody to misjudge or to mislook or to misunderstood the communication at all. So these barriers will determine or to reconsider the communication process that you have gone through. Okay, so let's start with the 4 barriers of communication. In physical barriers, we have here distance and noise. So physical means that is present around us. No? So number 1 is the distance. According here, communication is found obstructed in long distance, like communication between America and Nepal. So in reality, we are when you go outside the school, when you graduated, when you become professional someday, hindi tamalikawan nga we will be talking to other nationalities or other countries. So one barrier or physical barrier is the distance because considering the geographical location of the Philippines is very far from other countries. Even sa iban lang nga island sa aton, distance is already a barrier because if we consider the location of the Philippines or mga islands dire, sipak-sipak. So you have to travel pa either by boat or long distance travel to communicate with someone. But with the help of the technology or these mediums or channels, just like Messenger and other communication applications, distance is already solved. However, ang distance no sa in terms of channel, may mga hindrances magyapon or barriers inside that distance. And that distance is called no and that barrier is called the weak signals no or internet connection, wala capability to exchange or to go along with those technological advancements sa iba niyang mga lugar. So especially kung mag-talk ka or mag-Zoom meeting to sa iba nga countries, ang ila to ya smooth ang ila signal. But in our case, kung ga-Zoom ta sa iba nga countries, okay lang ko namin signal. Pero kung what if arat ta sa bukid or wala gid signal sa iba nga lugar. So that will become another barrier, no, when it comes to distance. Another one is noise, physical barrier to be considered as a noise. From external sources and affects the communication process, noise negatively affects the accuracy. Because kung gahot ang isa ka lugar, hindi ta concentrate, probably iban nga mga words mabatian ta, no? And it will cause miscommunication or misunderstanding. So number one barrier is a physical barrier. So that will talk about distance and noise. Second is psychological barriers. We have here perception, filtering, and emotions. So perception, it is the process of accepting and interpreting the information by the receiver. People receive things differently for various number of reasons. So, ang aton pag-ichindi sa paghambal sa isa ka tao is different. Probably it's because of the tone of the voice of the person or the sender. No? Probably ang iyang gesture, facial expression is different. That's the reason why our perception of accepting or interpreting, or sometimes we call that decoding of the message of the receiver is different. Um, Sometimes it's a quick when we have phone calls lang, but it is uh, commonly gid niya nga ka experience na ang perception when when there is face-to-face interaction with the person or the receiver from the sender to the receiver. So amo na ang isa ka barrier, no? Isa ang perception. Second is filtering. This is in this process, knowingly or unknowingly, some valuable information may be disposed. Sometimes man kakalipat ta sang iyang balta kag ang mga importante nga mga details will be left unspoken. So is abit ta nahambal ta na ang mga dapat ta ihambal. But in the filtering barrier, may mga hindi ta likawan nga malipatan ta, or some reasons, or it is usually ginahugod ta na filter because in some point basi makasakit ta emotion ng tao, makasakit ta, or it's very sensitive na. But filtering tani is effective kung ang tao sensitive. Pero kung hindi man lang sensitive ang tao, you have to say the right words dapat. So that's how filtering works as a barrier. So ginalimit yan, ginahambal. And the third one is emotion. Emotion also creates barriers to effective communication like anger, hate, mistrust, jealousy, and etc. So sometimes when we are very happy, we tend to say a lot of words nga hindi ta halikawan nga mahambal, no? Sometimes ang mga sekreto taga-kambal ta because of those excitement in our emotions. Also, kung angry ta, tanan mahambal taman without filtering the words. So that's how emotion works as a psychological barrier in communication cycle. Viewpoint, also a psychological barrier. It also creates barrier to effective communication because it is the receiver doesn't clear the message, ignore without hearing. The message may create obstruction. So usually kakatabo ni when there is no syncing of ideas. Kung ang ginahambal sa isa wala mo kinabaton. Kag usually gakos sa misunderstanding because you are not open-minded. The viewpoint of the sender is different from your viewpoint as a receiver. So the cause trouble or chaos sa viewpoint. And I think this is last psychological barrier, the defensiveness. No? If the receiver and receives the message as threat and interprets the message in the same way, it creates barrier to effective communication because may mga words lang tanga gina-accept sa aton, believe it or not, when we ask advice to someone, we cannot digest things, no? The whole things nga ginhambal sa isa ka advisor sa imo. We only filter those um, advices to the point nga manamian lang ta and we accept that into our system. How about the things nga wala ta gina-accept? Gina pabungol-bungulan ta na, ginapaluso ta na sa isa ta ka dulonggan. That's how defensiveness works. Ay, hindi ko na yan. No? Gina-deny mo ang butang or ang message ng isa ka sender. That creates a barrier also in psychological. We have also semantic barriers. What is this? In semantic barriers, usually, this is the barrier that creates knowledge gap in the communication cycle. When you are talking to someone that is very intelligent and for example, ikaw average lang, you cannot understand what the person is saying. Especially kung grabe iyang nga language yung ginagamit, yung highfalutin words, for example, or ka mga ano no, ka mga tayo mga English. So language is a barrier kumbaga sa aton because may mga butangan may nga hindi ta pa maintindihan in some point we have to search pa na sa internet or sa dictionary to understand the person is saying. Amuman sa jargon when we are talking to people nga sagada siya, you know, for example sa computers, may mga computer jargons or sa mga IT experts nga kinahambal nila nga hindi ta ka maintindihan sa mga normal nga tao nga hindi IT. So in that way, semantic barriers are present or in that jargon. Amuman sa mga doctors, may mga doctors nga gambal sa mga medical terms nga hindi ta maintindihan because they only talk about medical language nga hindi natin maintindihan. So sila lang ng mga doctors maintindihan. Pero the moment nga ng doctor magistorya sa imo about medical terms, hanggang nga na ta guro, and that caused a semantic barrier to our system. And the last one is organizational barriers. Usually present sa workplace. It is raised from organizational goals, regulations, structure, and culture. So number one is poor planning. And it refers to the designing, encoding, channel selection, and conflicting signal to organization. Usually, ang poor planning, this is the result of procrastination kag wala mayo na planuhan yung mga butang. So the moment when there is a meeting already, yung patawag na meeting, ang matabo is pag-present mo, there will be a barrier sa imo because damo mga mistakes sa pag-present mo. That's why it's called poor planning. So dapat when you present something to your boss or to your employers, you have to strategize and plan carefully. That's under organizational barrier. Second is structure complexities. Difficult organizational structure is a barrier for free flow of information. May some companies na mga kabudlay intindiyon sa ilang mga structure, no, ug ilang mga regulations. So it cause na sa confusion sa mga employees nila because wala na intindihan sa employees nila ang dapat ibaho. Paano na siya madula? Madula ni siya if there is a proper orientation, kung ano ang mga structures na dapat maintindihan sa mga employees. So that's structure complexities. Subong, ginapasimple na ang mga structure, organizational structure so that it is easy for the employees to understand what is inside the organization. Status differences, may mga yara ginatawag nga distance relationships sa mga boss nato, no? So it creates a barrier because I boss na siya, so I have hesitation to talk to him or to her. So ang status differences ga-affect na siya in organizations, even sa school, no. So iba mga doctors na, so there is a hesitation nga magstorya sa ila, no. Okay, base may mga damo ta base sa aton nga self pasisuyatan nila base di siya magstorya sa akon because sa mga taas na siya sa organizational distance between sender and the receiver. There are some employers and employees who has a distance nga in terms of location. May ara nga ang company was established in US pero may site din sila sa Philippines, so you have to report into the US. So there is a organizational distance. Information overload, sometimes bombard ka sa information sa mga sugop, sa mga tasks sa superior. So it create backlogs sa aton nga work, kay sometimes ang iban dito mobra because we don't understand kung ano gipobra sa aton. So mo na siyang information overload. Timing. Communication can be obstructed if the information is not provided in time. In some, time is very important because proper timing sa paghatag sa information is very crucial because hindi man pwede ka tagtas or dali-dalion ka sa superior mo. So dapat it must be in office hours, dapat wala kang may ginobra, or kung maghatagin man siya bisang sa mga task, no, you have to see to it nga okay man i-check mo if ang imo employees hindi man sako gid katama, so maubray man dayon. Because when there's no proper timing, ang matabo lang sa imo request, well, hindi naman nagyapon maubra because of those reasons nga sako sa kakalipatan. Okay, so those are the barriers in communication cycle. So in the LMS, I want you to go to the LMS. And I have sheet work number 2 prepared for you.